Hello guys, my name is Alvin Okoro and I'm a front-end tutor here at Rescue Americans. And in this video, I'll quickly show you how you can actually create a simple web page using the basic front-end tools, which are the HTML and CSS. I'll also be showing you how you can actually set up your folder structures, how you can set up your file structure, and how you can get started writing your code. So let's dive right in. So this is the basic web page we'll be creating on this tutorial. We won't be handling the mobile responsiveness because that will come on later on as a course here at Rescue Americans. So we're starting off from the top navigation down to the body of this web page. So now let's dive right in setting up our code. So my VS Code, I have my folder structures. But if you're new to VS Code, or if it's your first time opening your code editor, you can actually add your folder to Workspace. But for VS Code, you can actually click on the file option, then you can click on the open folder, and you can select the folder which you want based on the location, whether it's on desktop, on the document, or downloads. And then once you click on open, it will appear here automatically. So now if you notice, we have different subfolders under this main Rescue American frontend folder. We have the assets folder, which contains our images, both in SVG formats and PNG formats. We also have the folder called the CSS, which contain our stylings. For now, it is empty. We'll create new files there. And we have the design, which contains the very page that we're trying to clone. To add this page here, it's not compulsory, it's optional. The reason I added this particular image here is because I want to reach out to it from time to time in order to see what you're cloning. And if you're making use of VS Code, I would advise you to get an extension called the live server, because that will automatically load our page, refresh our page based on whatever we're doing. And for you to get the live server extension, you just have to go to the extension section on your VS Code. You can type or search for live server. So once live server is up, you can actually install the live server by clicking on the install. Then you have to wait for it to install. So once it is installed, you notice that you have something here, which is the go live option. So once you click on it, it will automatically open the page and then save it on your browser. So now let's go back. On our folder structures, we need additional files, which include the HTML and the CSS file. So we're going to create our HTML file, which will be in the root directory of the Rescue American frontend folder. That means it won't be in any page, in any folder, just like the design folder, the CSS folder, or the assets folder. So for us to do that, you can do that in so many ways. You can click on the file option and then the new file. But I always advise that you try creating it directly from your folder here. So you can click on the new file option here, and you can type the index.html and then enter. This is awesome, right? So now we are going to quickly set up a simple HTML structure. And for us to do that, we can hold the shift key on our keyboard and then the exclamation. So you can see we have the Emmet abbreviation, which will automatically scaffold a HTML dummy template for us. So once you hold the shift key and then hit on the exclamation button, you select the first option, and you can see we quickly have the basic HTML page up here and running. So I want to change this title to Rescue Americans Front End. And I'll quickly create a H1 tag which says the hello world. Then I'll save. So once I save this now, I would like to visualize or to see what I have written, and I would like to see the hello world on the browser. So remember, we installed an extension called the live server, which will help us to go live or help us to save our page on the browser. So once you click on the go live option here, it opens your web page, and you can see we have the hello world here. Awesome. So there are some basic setups that I would also like to do, which I want you to pay close attention to. So let's go back to our VS Code. Now, remember I said we are going to create a CSS file. And like you know, CSS is for adding beauty to our web page. So we're going to create a file called the style.css. So now for this style.css to work, that means we have to form something like a linkage between the HTML and CSS. And for us to do that, we have to like add it above the title. We have the link. You can press the link and you can see we have the embed option here, which shows you how to actually link your page very quickly. So once I hit on enter, you can see it generates a link relationship, which is style sheet, the href style.css. But we need to make sure that we are actually targeting the folder part correctly because this is not in the root directory. So how do we make sure that the CSS is working? So we have to take this off, then start with an absolute value, that is the dot sign, then slash. So you can see we have the folders on our showing here on our text editor. We have the assets folder, we have the CSS folder, we have the design folder. So because we want to link the style sheets, I have to select the CSS folder, and you can say I have the style.css, and then hit on enter and save. So now let's verify if what we did is actually working. So I'll come to my style.css and I'll do a rough body and then do something like the background color of red and save. Now let's view our browser. Awesome. So you can see our stylings are applying correctly. So now let's start building out our web page. Let's open the design and then look at what you're building. So because what you're building is has the background color of white, that means we're taking this off here. We don't need it. That is also cool. And we'll be setting up top navigation, which is a component on its own. The make remote work on the left hand side is one component on its own, and the image on the right hand side is another component on its own. So now let's get started. I will take this off. So I have to create something called a container. I'll create a div with a class name using the dot sign. I'll name it container to generate a div with a class of container for me. And in this container, I want to do a lot of things. But before then, I also like to use the universal selector to zero out the margins and padding. Because if you go to our browser, let me bring back the hello world. So you can see we have something like padding and the margin, paddings and margin here. So to remove it, I'll come to my style.css. The universal selector, I will do the padding of 0, margin of 0, box sizing of border box. I also like doing one more thing, which is the scroll behavior to be smooth and save. So once I save, you can see the paddings and margins are gone. So now let's take out the hello world because we're not building the hello world component today. So let's start with the top navigation here. So we'll start with a div with a top navigation as the class name. And if you notice from the top navigation, we have something like the containers on the left and also have the containers on the right. So we're going to do this here. So div.top navigation dash left and div.top navigation dash right. So this is cool, right? So now we're going to add the logo and then some text here, as well as these two. So now when we go to the assets, I have the logo file here, which is the logo.svg. Now the question is, how do I make use of it in order to display it here? Remember in HTML, we have what you call the image tag, which once I type the image tag, it asks me for source. And just like we did for that of CSS, we're going to try to locate the logo.svg. So we'll start with the absolute value, which is dot, and then slash. We will go into assets and then locate the logo.svg. So let's save and see our browser. Awesome. So you can see we have the snap logo showing here. So now, what about the other text here? Let's see. We have other text here, which includes the features, company, careers, and about. So I'll create another div here called the links. So I'll create a div.top navigation dash links, which will be a tag taking us nowhere because we don't want to take it nowhere. So I'll copy this into how many places? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll copy it into 4 places. And the name, the first one says features, company, careers, and about. So I'll fill them accordingly. So we have the features, we have the company, we have the careers, and we have the about. And let's save. So now let's view our browser so you can see we have the links showing perfectly. That's cool. We're making progress. So let's go to the design. Now we have at the right hand side, we have the login, which is a link, and also a button here which says register. So now let's go to the top navigation right hand side. First of all, we have an a tag taking us nowhere because we are not just building a simple page. So this says login, right? And this is a button which says register. So let's visit our browser and we see we have it here. So now let's tie the top navigation to look this way like we have on our design. So if you notice, we have something like a top margin from the very edge of this top navigation and also that of the right hand side of it. So remember, we added everything in a parent container. So I'll try to demarcate my screen so that we can actually be seeing it very clear, and then I'll close this up. So now let's get this container here. So we have dot container. I'll do something like the padding of 2 EM and save. And awesome, we have that same space here. So that is cool. Let's see what we're building. So now we have the spacing here. Let's style this to look exactly the same way it looks like, because currently you can see everything is being stacked up to the left hand side and then under each other. So now we're going to make use of a property called flexbox in order to push this top navigation to look cool. So I'll come and select my top navigation. Because it's a class, that's why I'm using the period sign. So I use the top navigation. I'll do something called the display flex. I want everything to align centrally. And I want to justify content to be spaced between so that they can push out to each other. And when we save, you see we have the snap and we have the login and register here. So one more thing is, if you notice from the design, we have the logo and the links more like in a horizontal format. And yeah, they are like laid flat this way in a row-like form. So because remember we tried to wrap everything here, the top navigation left, to fit in each other, we have to target the top navigation dash left and then still use the same property, which is the display flex. So we have the align item center, and let's view our output. So you can see everything are centered. So because there is a spacing here, according to the design here, so we're going to make use of what we call the gap property, then one REM. And when we check, you can see we have the spacing here. And also, if you notice, there are spacing right these nav links. So how are we going to get that? We're going to use the top navigation dash left anchor tags. First of all, I want to remove the default styling here, which is this decoration none. I want to change the color to black, and I want to make it a display flex so that I can actually use the gap property 1 EM. And yeah, so test decoration none. So you can see the colors are gone, right? So these are facing this way. So let's fix it up. So now when we come to this place, you can see we have the top navigation links. Oh, we made use of left instead of links. So once we save this now, top navigation links. Yeah, so sorry about that. We do the top navigation link display display flex. Yeah. So yeah, we have an error here, and boom, we have it this way. So now let's make use of the gap property in order to give spacing between these components. So gap, I'll give it a gap of 2 em. So we have cool spacing here. This is awesome, right? So now let's work on this one, which says the login and register. And let's see our design of what we're creating. We have the login and the register. So the login and register should be on the top navigation right. So we have the top navigation dash right. We'll make use of the still display flex, and then gap of 1 em. And let's see. So you can see there are spacing here. So now let's style this stuff to remove these decoration there. So have the top navigation dash right A with text decoration to be none, and we have the color to be black. So let's see. So it is gone. So let's start our button to look exactly this same way that our button is looking here. So for us to style our button, we have to like select the button itself and then style it properly. So the button should be, yeah. So you have to select it using the top navigation right button. First of all, let's remove the border to be none. So once we save, you can see the actual border is gone. So now the color, what about the color? Let's see. The color is still black, and we have a border radius or border of 1 pixel solid black. So let's add it. Border of 1 pixel solid black. So let's remove this border none because it will affect our styling. So you can see we have the border of 1 pixel solid black, and we have, I think the background is white. So we have the background color of white, and let's add a width property to it. Let's give it a width of 350 pixels. Let's see. Oh, 350 pixels is too big. Let's give it a width of 200 pixels. Let's see. Okay, still big. Let's try 150 pixel. Awesome. Now, let's give it a padding of 1 em. Okay, I forgot to add align item center here. So it is centered. So you have a padding of 1 em, which gave this spacing. And if you notice from the design, it's more like the border radius are curved. So we're going to make use of what we call the border radius of, let me give the border radius of 15 pixels. Yeah, it is curved. So now let's give it a cursor of pointer so that whenever a user hovers on it, it changes to pointer. So now this is pointer. Awesome. So if you notice from our design, we have awesome fonts here. By default, you're actually making use of the default fonts on VS Code. So now I'll show you how to can actually select the fonts of your choice if you want to. So you can quickly go to Google Fonts. So fonts.google.com, and you can select any font you want. So because I love these fonts, I'll use it. And I'll also show you how to can actually link your font. So I have to click on the select the medium, sorry, the regular, because that is the default one almost everyone uses. So I have to copy this link given to me here. So once I copy the link, I can come back to my HTML and then paste the link right above my title, save my file, then come back to this section. You can see where we have the font family of epilogue. So I can copy the font family. Take notes, look at this font now. So once I paste the font family, I can do this here, the body, comma, HTML. I want everything, the font family to be epilogue. And you can see the fonts are looking awesome now. So that is cool. So we're done with the top navigation. We are done with the top navigation. So the next thing to work on is the body. We're making awesome progress. So we're going to work on the body where we'll have the H1 tag, which says the make remote work, and the text, and then the image at the right-hand side. So as usual, we are going to come right at the end of this div covering the top navigation. So you can call this div dot body landing page dash body. So we have the landing page, that body, and as usual, we have the div.landing page dash body dash left for the text and everything. And also we have the landing page dash body dash right for the image. So first of all, I would like to link the image because it is very, very straightforward. So I'll use the image tag as usual, and then the absolute sign to look for my images, assets, and I'm looking for the image hero desktop. Then save it. And then let's come to the left-hand side. Remember, we have a H1 tag, which says what? It says make remote work. So we're going to make, I want to use a line breaker so that it will actually look nice the way we have done the design. So I can say remote work. Save this. And the next text says get your team in sync no matter your location. So because of this, we're going to make use of the p tag and then get your team in sync no matter the location. What else? I think I have to place this here so that I can actually type faster. No matter the location, yeah, streamline processes, create team rituals, and watch productivity. So awesome. And we have a learn more button. So let's say the button says learn more. Wow, this is awesome. So now let's see our output. So you can see the images here and the text that we actually use are here. So we are going to style this to look exactly like the design which I showed you all earlier. So let's do this now. As usual, I'll have to select my landing page body. I have to copy this landing page body here. So the landing page body, I'll have to use the display flex property, which you push them by the side. If you see, they are by the side. And let's see if we're going to use the align item center because we have the image here. Okay, that is fine. There's no point using the align item center. And if you notice, we have something like a spacing between the top navigation and that of the body of the image. So we're going to do something like this. We're going to use the margin top of, let me use margin top of 16 pixels. Let's see what will happen. I think 16 pixels is default. Let's try 30 pixels. Awesome. So now we are going to style our image. Let's start with our image because our image looks way bigger here. So let's see the output and see the way the image looks. It looks very fair enough. So we can actually style the image by, first of all, getting the class name of the parent container covering it and then the image itself. So I can do the dot landing page body dash right, then select the image. I want to give it a width property of 300 pixels. I just like using 300 pixels. Okay, this looks fair enough now. So we can actually style this one. So now let's yeah, let's try pushing this. Okay, yeah, that's cool. So now let's start our text. So first of all, I'm going to select the landing page body dash left, then select the H1 tag. So the H1 tag, I want to increase the font size to let's give it the 16 pixels is the default size. So let's increase it to 32 pixels. So let's see. All right. So let's see, something is wrong somewhere. All right. All right, 32 pixels. Let's give it a font weight of bold for it to be bold. All right, that's cool. And then let's style basically the content in left, because if you look at this content, we have something like spacing around all. So I have to first of all do dot landing page dash body yeah dash left, and I'll use the display grid and then give it a gap of 2 em. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, the 2em gap is too much. So now let's try using the flex property. Let's try the display flex, then flex direction of colon, because I want to still maintain the colon. I want to give it a gap of 1.4 rem. Let's save. Okay, it looks better now. So now let's style the text itself. Let's style this text. So to style the text, I have to select dot landing page body dash left, then the p tag. I want to give it a width of 200 pixels so that yeah, give it a width of 200 pixels is a little bit small. Okay, let's try increasing the width again to 560 pixels. All right, so it looks nice now. So now let's style our button to look much like this. So we have our button dot landing page body left button. We have the border of none. We have the background of black. We have the color of white. We have basically the same width that we had here. So I'll copy the same width and same padding. And I'll paste it here, and then same border radius of border radius of 15 pixels. So I'll simply copy these two because it's basically the same thing. So when I see my output here, you can see I have the button here. And also want to maintain, still want to maintain that the cursor pointer when you hover on the button itself. So I'm just going to add the cursor to be pointer, and when I hover on this, you can see it is pointer. So I want to push this to move to the end of this screen. So let's go back to where we made use of the display flex. So you can see we made use of display flex and nothing else. So you can just use the justify contents space between. Okay, this is at the edge of this screen. But let's confirm our design. So we see have something like a larger space here. So instead of using space between, you can actually make use of the space around. Let's see what space also the space around gave off exactly what you need. So now let's try finishing up our design to look very much like what we had, or this particular one that we're building. So I'm going to make this to display center, to align item center, increase the image itself. So let's use align items to be center here. So this is centered now. We're actually giving it a finishing touches. And let's look at the design. This font looks bigger. Okay, let's increase the image now. I think let's increase the image to 500 pixels. Awesome, looks better because this is the way it looks. So 500 pixel works. So what is left is for us to make this look bigger and make it look nicer. So let's try the left property, that's the landing page body left. We give it a gap of 2.4. Let's try a gap of 2.5 rem. So we can see we have the cool gap here. So now let's increase the font size of this text here. So we have the landing page body left H1, font size of 62 pixels. Let's use 2 pixels. Awesome. And let's try increasing the font size of the text itself and then giving it a line height too. The font size by default is 16 pixels. So I'll give it a font size of 18 pixels and a line height of 32 pixels. So you see it looks way better. So this is it. So let's verify if you're missing any step. Okay, we have title, top navigation, and images. And from our implementation too, we have the title, image, and top navigation and everything that we'll basically need for this HTML page. So this is how you can actually create cool designs using HTML and CSS. You've seen how you can actually link images, how you can actually set up your file, how you can actually increase the font size and do amazing things with HTML and CSS. So one more thing is left. I'll show you also how to zip your file, because from the assessment, you also try yourself, you zip the files yourself and then try to submit the zipped file. So because I've finished building all of this, let me minimize my Chrome and also my VS Code. So this is the folder containing everything that I built in. So let me open it to verify. So you can see we have the assets, CSS, design, and index or HTML. So now for me to zip this folder, I have to like right click on this, and you can have several options here, which says the open, move to bin, get info, rename, compress. So this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the compress option here. So once I click on the compress option, it will automatically generate the zip folder for me. And this is what I can actually submit. For those on Windows, you can right click and then you can see also what is compressed to zip file. You can click on this compressed to zip file and you have it zipped on your PC. So what's left for you? I will encourage you all to try recreating this exact design on your own. Try practicing it over and over. And also try looking for a design yourself, which you find very much comfortable in cloning. Because doing this, you can actually strengthen your HTML and CSS skill and can actually build amazing tools for the web. So if you're trying or if you're building this particular web page and you encounter any error, please feel free to reach out to any mentor, any tutor, or you can reach out to me. I'll be glad to also help you to build amazing solutions for the web. So thank you very much for watching and have a great day, you all.